Artist for Echo. I need to make clear that I am not asking about David Miscavige, as he is a whole other issue, as he can do whatever he wants to people. I'm looking for a general membership Sea Org view. I have gotten some mixed impressions of how Scientology handles broken policies and rules. Given what I have read, it seems to me that Scientology is all about working lists steps in order, and this includes punishment. One example, the suppressive person letter I once looked up, said something like, if you do steps A to E, then you can come back to the church. Also, several comments you made about the RPF gave me the feeling that you know you have broken Rule X, so you do steps 1 to 10, you're forgiven and all is well. This sounds almost impartial. Elsewhere, you and others talk about how arbitrary everything is and that it takes a lot of sucking up. So I wonder, which is it? If you were magically, yes, I know it's impossible, able to follow all the rules, would that mean you would never get into any trouble, or are you at the mercy of those above or around you? When you do break a rule, is the process of forgiveness a step-by-step impartial system, or is it up to the whims and moods of those above or around you? Well, something to keep in mind about Scientology, like any other human group or system, is that it's made up of humans. and human beings are the most arbitrary people, anywhere. We're not a bunch of automatons, right? So emotional, influences and experiential influences and educational influences. I mean, all these things enter into to give different people different ideas of how justice should be carried out, how rules should be interpreted, and how affairs should be conducted, right? And I think that's true of any group, and Scientology is no different. Scientology has a very harsh form of punishment and discipline, especially at the Sea Org level, when you get into physical punishments and discipline. So it can become extremely arbitrary, and rules. The thing about rules in Scientology is that there's a policy letter Hubbard wrote called Service. It's a policy letter. It's the service policy, or the service policy letter, or the service PL, we used to call it, right? PL for policy letter. And that policy letter specifically states, damn the rules, forget the rules. The rules are not important if you're breaking the rules in order to provide service to somebody. Well, that could be interpreted in a very wide sense, right? And often is in Scientology. So other rules about, not accepting a person for service unless they've paid for the service first. You could blow that rule off because we're servicing this person, so I have to help him out even if he hasn't paid, right? And people would get into trouble for that, because here you are trying to do a good thing for somebody who needs some help. And then later on, a senior person looks at this and goes, but that was done for free and we're here to make money, so what the hell? And then the person who did that says, well, it was the service PL. I was servicing the person. Yeah, but this other policy says that you have to collect money for service. So, screw that. And the guy gets in trouble. Right? And that's a real example of how contradictory policies or contradictory interpretations of policies in Scientology will get a person in trouble for maybe doing the right thing. And there's hundreds and hundreds of these things, right? Also, in terms of following the rules or steps of a punishment and then being forgiven, yeah, not quite. When a person finishes the RPF, they've just gone through years of rigorous discipline and punishment for whatever transgressions they did or didn't commit that landed them in the RPF. When you come off the RPF, you are not trusted, not even a little bit, no, right? People are certainly glad to have you back around, but as far as trusting you, it's all very tentative. It's all very, well, let's just see if this guy's really handled sort of thing, right? Probably kind of similar to, when people come out of prison, right? Point being that you have gone through this very rigorous program, which, per the policies and per the ideas of it, theoretically, in other words, you're supposed to be all forgiven now, right? But no, it doesn't really work that way. And after you come out of the RPF, you have a whole new set of amends to do before you will be, really accepted back into everybody's good graces, right? So, and then even then, you know, it's a buildup, because a year, 2, 3 years later, you know, that RPF assignment can come back to haunt you. And I've seen people who came off the RPF, screwed up on something, and went right back to the RPF, right? Like within a month. And that really sucks, you know, because there's nothing worse than the RPF. You know, and then you have, like you mentioned, a person is declared suppressive, and they have these steps A to E to do. And if they do those steps, then they are no longer suppressive. And that's true. A person can do those. But what it takes to get through those steps, oh my goodness. And, you know, where one person might be able to do an amends of selling these books and paying a certain amount of money, and maybe he gets a few people into Scientology, another person might do those same kinds of things and not be accepted because he is an ex-Sea Org member, whereas this person was never a Sea Org member, was only a staff member, or was only a public person. And so, you know, it's not the same. And so the ex-Sea Org guy is going to have to do 10 times more amends and 10 times more work to, you know, before the person who approves this is going to approve it, right? Might be the same guy approving both things, but he's gonna have you know, double standards for those two people, because that's just that's the culture of Scientology and the Sea organization. So it very much is up to the whims of different people as to how much punishment's meted out and what it takes to get back in good graces or get back into, you know, yeah, you know, once you violated or broken any rules.